Aiken, Atlanta, and the world. Welcome. You're listening to the WCEG Network. We are the worldwide community organization, empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Today, you can watch us live on your smart TV, Roku channel, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and now on Fanbase and Blue Sky. Please search for the WCEG logo and subscribe on all social media platforms. I'm Anthony C. Aiken, along with my great buddy and co-host, Herman Anderson. And today, you're going to be listening to the WCEG Veterans Today talk show. Ladies and gentlemen, it's just a great opportunity, and we just want to let you know that we're very proud that you're with us today. And Herman, before I get into our little disclaimer, why don't you just say hello and then I'll come back with the disclaimer.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Veterans Today, WCEG talk show. And I am Herman Anderson, along with the co-host, Anthony C. Aikens.
That is true. And we just want to let you know that we're so glad you're with us. But first of all, we want to let you know that you could also go and listen to us on Alexa and any of our 12 podcast distribution platforms. And as I said before in the disclaimer, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guests and not the WCEG network. And we thank you for your continued support. Herman, we have an outstanding guest today, and why don't you let our guest know who she is?
Good afternoon, my friend Veda. Would you introduce yourself and we'll get rolling.
Hello, my name is Veda Brooks. I am the State Women Veterans Coordinator for the state of Georgia. I am also an advocate for foster youth and homeless youth. And today, I am here to participate in a conversation that I think is very important. The words that are coming out of my mouth are Veda's words. They are not necessarily or aligned with the state of Georgia. So please understand that this is Veda's opinion and this is Veda's talk. This is not from the Georgia Department of Veterans Service.
Well, that's a good disclaimer. But you know what?
Yeah.
Your words are going to be true.
Very, very great. And with what's going on in our country today, our government, and so we have a lot of veterans in their family that are stressed, that are not sure what's going to happen, that we are, including me, concerned about benefits, claims, Social Security, you name it, jobs. So let's get started about for example, the claim and benefit process. In Veda's expert opinion, and you've been working with this, I know you have a lot of experience in it. So tell us your thoughts on it.
Okay, so the first thing I want to say is based on the latest information, memos, and communication that we are being given from the White House and through VA National, the veterans benefits, your payments will not stop. They are not affected by this pause. That money will continue. It will be the same for Social Security because that takes an act of Congress to stop. So that will not, there's not an executive order can't pause that. So if you're drawing Social Security and you are drawing your veteran's disability, your checks will continue to come. However, that doesn't mean that things are not going to change in the way that they grant and what the percentages will be for each disability. What I will say though, is most times, and we are in unusual times, but in most times, the pattern is where you are and how you are rated remains the same. So if you were, for example, if you were rated for your knees based on the criteria in 1943, then if in 1960 the criteria changes and it becomes more difficult for you to get rated for your knees, you are grandfathered in and they cannot change it or lower it simply because the criteria has changed. What makes you go to the new changes? You only go to the new changes when you decide to file another claim for that particular disability. So the law still stands based on the 10 years. You have to have a certain number of reviews before they can lower it. But what I do want everyone to consider, and I am talking to my veterans, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. Stop filing frivolous claims.
Great point. Great point.
Okay. It's really, really important that you don't file frivolous claims, because the minute you file a claim, that is when whatever the new law or the new criteria is, they will re-rate everything and go ahead and do that. So my advice, because it happens to men all the time, you're at 100%, your little blue pills are free to you anyway. Do not file for ED because you want $125 or $135 extra a month. It's not worth what could possibly happen based on new things happening. One of the things that has been floating about, but again, these are just ideas. It's making it so that veterans with disabilities only receive the disability money for a certain amount of years instead of for their life. So we are concerned that some changes may be coming down the line. But right now, my advice is do not file frivolous claims. And if you are service connected for anything, make sure that you are staying on top of your self-care. What does that mean? If you are service connected for your knees and all you're doing is using the cane and taking a ridiculous amount of Motrin, stop. Start reporting that the pain has gotten worse to your health provider. That doesn't change your health provider does not talk to the people who do disability. But if you are just taking the Motrin and using the cane and you're not reporting anything, when they go through your records, they will assume that disability got better because you have not talked about it with your primary caregiver. You have not asked for any medication and you have not reported any other issues.
That point is very, very key. And I'd like to just add a little piece to that, Ms. Brooks. Let's say Herman Anderson and Anthony Aiken are now rated at 100%. They think they're good. So as a result of that, Herman Anderson and Anthony Aiken no longer go and see their VA doctors. And that, to your point, they feel that they're better, so they don't go. Not only they're not taking the meds, but they don't go. They think they're good. But then there's someone taking a look in the background at Herman Anderson and Anthony Aiken has not been in the hospital in a year or a year and a half, not fulfilled any prescriptions or whatever. And the next thing you know, they're getting a letter saying, you know, we reevaluated it, and based on our review, we're now going to change you from 100% to 50% or lower. and it took you 2.5 years to get it from the beginning, now it's going to take you 3 to 4 years to get it back. So the point is, to your particular point, continuous medical care, medical treatment, going to your appointments, and making sure that you do the right thing, not only for yourself, but also for your family. And I'm so glad you brought that point up.
Yes, and if you choose to use your TRICARE for life or your TRICARE or the health insurance that your company gives you because you're working, make those same complaints to your primary doctor on the outside. When you go to that appointment, we only have to show up for 2 appointments, one in person and one telehealth for the VA. So when you go in, take a copy of your medical records from the civilian doctor that you're seeing and request that those records be added to your VA healthcare records. That way, when you go in, when they go to review, yeah, you might not have been going to the VA, but you've been going to this orthopedics, you've been going to this place, you've had a referral to this specialist. They can see that there's been a continuity of care for your disabilities. Okay. Yeah. So that right there, that's important. Presumptives won't change. They're law. So again, that would be Congress that would have to pull those presumptives. It takes a long time to get presumptives on a list because it has to go through Congress and all of those things. So your PACT Act, the presumptives for being in Vietnam, all of those are staying. There won't be any change there. So let's talk about how this can impact you when you're filing a claim. So many of you may not know this, but he gave everybody until today to resign,
right,
and get the money and then get paid until September, or just get fired. And so you might be thinking, well, these people are doing my claim, so they should be safe. No, the VA runs a lot like the military. You may have been hired to be a VSR or somebody who's rating claims, but your second hat could be filing claims or looking at claims for women, or focusing on making sure that the LGBTQ plus have all of the right doctors and things in place. How does this translate to you if you don't fit in any of those categories? Those people's jobs may be eliminated. And so when they eliminate jobs in the VA, everyone is short-staffed, right? And because everyone becomes short-staffed, it's going to take us longer to get those claims processed, reviewed, quality assurance. And so I cannot predict how long it's going to take. The computer says it takes less than 365 days, but we all know that the algorithm they put in the computer, it stopped working about 2 days after they put the algorithm in. And so we are already waiting 8 months to a year for an adjudication on just an initial claim. That being said, be patient. The VA, the VBA is really going to have some difficulty keeping knowledge. If I'm running a corporation or a government agency and I'm trying to figure out how to save money, I'm not firing the people who I pay the least. I am offering retirement to the people I pay the most, which often becomes the people who have the wisdom and the knowledge, which is going to slow up the process. And it's going to make things very difficult. They are also saying that they want to get rid of people who are either on probationary period or who have been there less than a year. The problem with that remains that those people who are in the middle, they are employees and they're tired and they're overworked and they're burning out. There will be no new people for them to train, bring them up to proficiency to be able to take their place. So be patient with the VBA. You're going to be frustrated at some point. It will get bottlenecked as people move out. The other thing to understand is that the VBA and the VA work on line item numbers as if they did in the military. So if you don't understand what that means I'm riding down the road and I totaled the Humvee. As long as that totaled Humvee is sitting in our motor pool, my chain of command cannot order another Humvee. That Humvee, the investigation has to be done. They have to determine who was at fault. They have to determine who they're going to charge. And then it has to be turned over to properties on at your division level, and then the division has to turn it over to properties at the level they turn in broken equipment. It has to be written off from the books, and then your company books will then reflect that you're missing that Humvee, right? So sometimes you're in the military and you're like, why won't they just hurry up and give us a Humvee? It takes almost 6 months to process that piece of equipment and make everybody who's accountable before they can say, order a new vehicle. That being said, that's exactly how they hire for the VA. The VA is required to have people leave, have that position vacant, and then they have to do the advertisement for that position, and then they have to do, so it can take us 2 years to get a replacement for one person when they follow the letter of the law. And so that's why I'm saying be patient. Some of the people that are going to be working for the VA and the VBA will be working under the conditions that you are thinking of right now. They're nervous if they're going to be able to keep their job. They're wondering how they're going to handle the workload. And many of these are also veterans who also have all of the same disabilities that we have, PTSD, back injuries, knee injuries. And so many people don't know or don't recognize that DEI is one of the greatest laws that help protect people with disabilities. It's the thing that says that VBA cannot fire you for being pregnant. Even if you can't perform your duties, they have to turn around and find something for you to do where you don't have to lift over 50 pounds. So we're going to be seeing a lot of things change with the changes that are coming down right now.
So, I mean, that's a lot. And like I say, we have to be patient because that's the way the system works, both in government and in corporate America and in a large organization. And one point I want to point out that Anthony, myself, and you always point out, there's the VBA and VA Medical are two different organizations.
Totally different.
And we want to just enforce that to veterans.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is very true. They are different.
Yeah.
And so I don't perceive the ability to get an appointment getting easier.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when you pause everything, people think, okay, they paused it, but I don't understand why I don't have a primary doctor. You don't have a primary doctor because when they paused, what happened was the person who was doing the interview to get a doctor in has to pause they have to stop those interviews. They don't know how much money they're going to have to pay. So there's a lot of things that take place in this. And so when you're at the VHA, which is the Veterans Health Administration, you're going in and you're getting your care. We have been short specialty doctors for years now, because we just can't pay what Emory can pay or what the other big hospitals can pay. So with the VHA, that's your health care. That's all of the healthcare is under that umbrella, right? And so that's your dental work, that's your mental health, that's your physical health. All of that is under there. So when we look at the VBA, which is the Veterans Benefits Administration, those are your benefits. That's your VA loan, your burial, education, and disabilities. That's what's under the VBA. The VBA and the VHA, which is the healthcare system, they are cousins, but their parents have not spoken for years over a minor incident, right? And then we have the Vet Center. The Vet Center, while it is covered while the VA pays it, right? What happens is that is a separate entity that we have to be very thankful to Vietnam veterans for, because they established that after they came back from Vietnam, and the VHA was alerting their employers what their conditions were, and they were being fired. And so Vietnam veterans said, hey, we need a place where we can go and talk about the horrible things that we saw and experienced with the comfort and the law behind us that says this cannot be shared with anyone. And those are your veterans, your vet centers. And so the vet centers are a separate agency that gets paid by the federal government under VHA, but they do not combine. They do not share records. They do not share record systems. Matter of fact, you can be enrolled into the vet center and the VA healthcare center has any record of who you are. That is intentional. That is their purpose. And the vet center, if you don't know, also does grief counseling and mental health care with spouses, and oftentimes with the children, to help them get through the process. So you are looking at separate systems that work under this big umbrella. So when you are going to if you have a cold, you're going to the VHA. If you have a chronic disability that you're trying to get service connected, you're going to the VBA. You can tell your doctor over at, let's just say, you know what, I'm service connected for my back. And I've been going to my primary doctor for years, and I've been telling him I can't bend, I can't sit, nothing. And you know what? They still haven't given me an increase. That's because your doctor is not allowed to tell the VBA that your condition has gotten worse. Well, why make me go through two different things? HIPAA. There are laws that say my doctor can't just be talking to people in the elevator about what's happening with me. Here's the other thing. What if you came into the doctor, you got a shot 2 days ago, he does your back exam, and on this particular day, you're doing well. He can then tell the VBA, as of this morning, based on those lidocaine shots, he is great. I don't even know if he needs disability anymore. Yeah. But everybody who's ever had a lidocaine shot knows it's supposed to last you 30 to 45 days. But the truth is, as you get older, they only last you a week and a half. So that wouldn't be fair to you either, because they are only getting a snapshot of what your health is like in that moment. And disability is looking at how has it changed your quality of life. So that's why we are where we are with that. So that's what's happening.
Well,
tell you what, Ms. Brooks, your analogy is just spot on. because you brought in the salad, the VBA, the VHA, and all those kind of things, whereby we're now speaking really truth into the community for them to really know the difference. Because there's a difference, a major difference between the healthcare side and the benefit side that our listeners really need to know. But unfortunately, this executive order and things that are being signed now, and people are retiring or thinking about retiring, there's another current under that they were not talking about. Because of the lack of staff, because of the delayed situation, what about those veterans that are suicidal? What about those veterans that are homeless? What about those veterans that need some care that they're not going to be able to get because of the reduction in staff and the time frame to get somebody else in, just like you said, from the property book at the battalion level to the division level to the brigade level to the command level to make that decision. I mean, when you were going through it, I was in my battalion commander mode. I exactly knew what you were talking about, that process. And it's not quick. So
Right.
we now thinking about that veteran on the street, that veteran's going over there to get that medication, that Zoloft or whatever it is to help him or her to control those anxiety feelings that may want to take them out. So that's something that I was wondering about. How is this new Air Force director, Phil Collins, Air Force veteran, Air Force lawyer, a politician, and for the past 10 years, we had, 8 or 9 different VA directors? Now we got this new Make America Great Again crew coming in with all these changes with the executive order. How is that going to affect that 1% of the active duty and the veterans in the system to make sure that they get taken care of, reduce suicidal acts, eliminate or reduce homelessness, and take care of families?
Okay. So let me start with homelessness. Let me start there first. The big issue would be that if homelessness is not at the top of the agenda for veterans, at the very top, we could see a reduction in money for SSVF. I got a feeling you're going to ask me what those letters stand for. But what SSVF does is there is an organization that gets the money and then is allowed to give out vouchers to help veterans pay their rent at a percentage. So for example, they will look at how much I make, how much money I have, and they'll say, okay, Veda, right now you're at 10%, you get $186. We are authorized to get you an apartment for $900. You pay 30% of that money, and then we'll pay the rest. But that's only for a certain amount of time. They give you 90 days sometimes to find gainful employment. And then at the end of that 90 days, they reevaluate and see where you are. Your portion goes up, their portion goes down, right? And so it's one of those programs where they're really trying to help you get you stable into housing, and hopefully you can maintain. Some people are paying $35 a month for their apartment because not only are they they may be disabled, but maybe it's not a disability from the VA, so they can't increase their disability. So they're only getting Social Security, right? And so that is one of the programs that we are definitely, monitoring to make sure that we get the money for. And that is the supportive services for veterans families. So supportive services for veterans families that's that allowance to get you back on your feet. And then we have what is known as HUD-VASH. And HUD-VASH works the same as Section 8. And you find you a place and the same thing happens and you're stabilized. But like HUD-VASH, HUD-VASH is equal to HUD/Section 8 in that there's no time limit on how long you can receive this money. That being said, if for some reason they decide to reduce the HUD or the SSVF money, the people who are on it will be grandfathered in, but there's no more money to bring others into the program. So that could, in fact, increase our homeless population for veterans and across the board for everybody, right? So that's one of those things that we're concerned about when it comes to homelessness. It's also many of the programs that run vet courts and do the transitional housing, that's grant money. So we're hoping that that money isn't touched so that those programs can continue. In the greater society, there's also, I have never seen so many foster care items on grants on the chopping block. So that means not only that, but we may have some difficulty in caring for the children, the orphans of our veterans when they get out. There may not be as much money to care for those kids. And we all know we have been asking for more money in that particular realm for years. So there are just a lot of things that kind of trickle, I hate using that word, but kind of trickles down when you withhold the grant money. That's also your roads. So it's going to touch everybody in some kind of way. Yes.
So
sir.
let's talk about something that I know is near and dear to your heart, is foster care. So tell us, let me reinforce the disclaimer, then I'm going to ask you to tell us about it. The topics and opinion are those of the show hosts and guests, not WCEG Network. So it's a disclaimer. Now tell us about your foster care program.
So my foster care, I have a nonprofit that is called V2 National Association of Foster Youth, Inc. I didn't really give a lot of thought to how long that would be when I came up with the name, but yeah, that is the name. And our pseudonym is V2 Fostering Change. What we do is we educate and we provide resources for for children who are aging out of the foster care system, leaving juvenile detention, and or are homeless. And so we try to get them caught up in the life skill things that parents would have taught that they may not have learned because they've been to 8 different homes. We provide the basics for them to go to the dorm. So if their county does not have the money to pay for all the dorm room things that they need, then we provide a welcome to college package. If they want to be part of the kids that are being mentored, then we put them on a list and we assign someone that will talk to them as they're going through the process, what they're doing. Just give them someone who is stable they can reach out to. We do it for kids going to four-year universities, tech school, and those who have decided to join the military.
Okay. Tell us about your fundraiser, then we're going to go to MST.
Oh, yes, we are having a fundraiser. And we're selling popcorn. And so there's a link you can click on, you can buy the popcorn, you pay right on the site, they deliver it straight to your house, and we get 50%. So whatever we sell, we get 50%. And so we would appreciate any support that you can give. Herman, can you put that up on your Facebook or something? And then that way they don't have to find me.
Yeah, I'll put the link up and
Okay.
I'll so we'll
Yes.
circulate it in my network.
Yeah. Foster care is important to me. I'm very passionate about that. I'm equally passionate about taking care of veterans and mental health. So I do want to pivot to mental health because you brought up a good point, Anthony. What happens if I can't get an appointment? Remember, you can go to the vet center. But the other thing I want to remind you of is that you are also a citizen of your state. If you are in Georgia, it's DBHDD. Reach out to the mental health resources in your community and get some care.
What was the acronym?
DBHDD, Department of Disabilities and Behavioral Health. And I don't always get the alphabets right, you guys. I know the acronyms. And so that is the Georgia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. Okay. And so
Okay.
they have a lot of resources that you can use. And it doesn't matter they don't care if you were in the military, they don't care about your discharge. They're just about saving your life. The other thing you need to do is call 988. When you call 988, they will get you someone to talk to, but they will also give you resources. Please understand that 988 is in fact, it's a dual service. If you think you're about to harm yourself, 988 is a place you can call, get transferred to a therapist who can actually help you through that process. Now, that's who's going to first call. So when you call 988, a lot of people get frustrated because they want to make sure that you're not about to harm yourself. Okay. Once you say, I have no intentions of harming myself or anyone else, but I need help because I'm sitting in this house with 4 kids and there's no food because I can't afford it, they're going to then transfer you based on your zip code to an organization that can provide you some food. So they are there. What if you wake up at 2 a.m? You don't want to kill yourself, but you can't go back to sleep because life is hard. 988 will actually talk with you. They are trained to talk to you and help you through that dark, quiet period and get you back on your feet. And then they will follow up and make sure that you're okay days afterwards. So use 988 if you need that. But don't forget, you are a veteran who is a resident of a state who provides that mental health and suicide prevention care to you for free or on a sliding scale. If you're in Georgia, the Georgia Department of Veteran Service will come out and train lay people to understand the signs of suicide so that you would be that first line of defense while you're talking to a veteran and they begin to display those signs. We will come out, we will train anywhere you want. We will train staff, we will train youth, we will train at your church, we'll train in a parking lot, we will meet you by a tree. This is really important that we get this out here. So if you are having any kind of event or if you want us to get online, whatever you want, please feel free to invite us to be there. My email address is V as in Victor, Brooks, BROOKS, the number 1 at VS, Victor Sierra, .ga as in Georgia, .gov as in government. If you want any kind of training from corporate level to 5 friends that you play dominoes with, we will come out, we will teach, and we are our best resource. We have to take care of each other. I am my brother's keeper.
You are definitely speaking truth into the community. I mean, there's so much knowledge that you've exhibited and shared with our listeners worldwide that it just brings joy to our hearts that there are individuals like you out there willing, not only on the foster care side, but also the knowledge to let people know that there's help out there. You know, there's help. And we hope that for those veterans that can't get to do what they do, their family members and friends is something that can take this knowledge base and provide it to them so they can seek help. Not only, you know, the infamous DD Form 214 that they need, which is the base. And I tell all our listeners, that is the base that you need to have on your phone, like I have on mine. You know, that something may happen that you can get the help that you need. Burial support, the whole 9 yards. And that's not morbid, that's the truth. I mean, you need to be prepared.
It
Yes.
is, it is speaking the truth. And Anthony, over the years that we working together, he tend to call me knuckleheads and people that are hard headed and stubborn. I'm one of them. He's one of them.
But you know, we have to go through a process to go through it to get to it. And to share that knowledge. And in the 8 years, going on 9 years that Herman and I have been blessed to do this, we have seen people get help. Just because of people like Miss Brooks and others that come on our show and to share important information. And as we said, knucklehead, we say that all the time. We have a lot of knuckleheads out there that are not listening, but we hope that others are listening to get those knuckleheads to help. Because
Yes, and speaking of knuckleheads, when you can still work if you have a VA disability. And so that's important because I get a lot of young people who don't want to file claims because they don't want to, they think it's going to keep them from getting hired. No. And the Disabilities Act says that other than your doctor providing a letter for reasonable accommodations, your employer can't even ask you what your disability is. Right?
I agree.
So don't think I'll just wait till I'm older to file this claim so I can get employed. The truth is, file it within a year because it's easier to make the connection. And then what happens is, as you get older, you get increases, right? Because you've worn out that knee now. Now that knee needs a knee replacement, right? So start when you're young. And if you're like, I don't need that money, that's just, you know what? Your need for it and the fact that you've earned it, the earning it should be higher than the need. And it's wonderful if you don't need it. So if you don't need the money, invest it.
Well,
That's money that you say, well, I don't need that. I'm doing well. Great. Then invest it. Start building up your generational wealth with that disability check. Because if you think about it, if the only thing you got was 10% for hearing, and you were getting paid $100 a month for 20 years, and that money was in an IRA or 401(3), whatever you're putting it in, it is growing interest. It is money you're not missing. But when you come of a certain age and you look around and you say, I am done working for this corporation, I'm ready to do something on my own, you have put away $1,200 a year. And at minimum, it's doubling as you get older. You are sitting on a nice nest egg for you to do whatever you want. because you didn't need that $132. You learned to live without it and you just invested it. So this is something you've earned. It's not something that people are giving you. You know, you were there when the bombs blew up. It did affect how you hear. It will get worse. The ringing will eventually turn into the huh, and you'll be talking. You was laughing at your grandpa because he couldn't hear, but he made it through World War II and he couldn't hear. And so just know that there are times when when you might feel like I'm taking a handout from the government, but here's what you should understand. And it's so weird to me that people will get on a soapbox and talk about the fact that our college students who are playing sports should be paid, because if they get injured in that college sport, their dream to become a professional player is gone. But those colleges have made millions because they played the sport, right? Put yourself in that situation. You are a veteran. You were a soldier who fought and who agreed to go and fight, and you literally put your life on the line. And what they're saying to you is, thank you for putting your life on the line. But had we not sent you to a place where they were going to bomb you, you would be able to hear clearly. So here's $132 because we know you can't hear anymore, or your hearing has been affected, right? And so, so if you look at it in a football analogy, you will come to see that you earned it, and yes, you should get it.
That's a great analogy, and I need to ask you one question before we run out of time. I also have a nonprofit. My nonprofit is Veteran Helping Veterans, and people are listening to us. So I have people walk in the door. They don't even have the DD-214 that Anthony talked about. So we need to get them in the system. We need to get them started with the 10 or 20%. So as I believe the Georgia Department of Veteran Services has offices throughout the state to assist veterans in getting in the system.
Yes.
Am I correct? And
you are correct. You can go into any office. We have 56, I believe now. And if you go, so you can go into one of our offices and you can get registered into our state system, and they will also help you if with the right paperwork, if you do not have your DD-214.
Yeah.
But here's some good news. If you enlisted in Georgia, and Georgia, if you were a Georgia resident when you enlisted, many of those DD-214s GDVS has, because that's where they send your DD-214 back to. Department of Defense will send it back to your home state.
Yeah.
And so we have a huge collection of DD-214s that are sitting there if you went into the service from Georgia. And so again, you could go into the office and request that they look inside our system and see if it's there.
And so the next step is getting into the system, actually submitting doing the intake. A lot of veterans try it themselves, and that's, we recommend dealing with veteran services.
Well, you know what? I recommend that you deal with a veteran service officer, especially on your initial claim, because a lot of people don't understand what's needed. But getting into the state system, and look, we can enroll you into the state system, and we can give you the paperwork for your SF. We can give you the SF 180 and do that. We even have a few people on our staff that now have access to a nationwide database to prove you had service. And once we go in there and we can prove you have service, we can file the claim and make the VA go get your DD-214, because it will get downloaded when you have your claim and they request your service records. So don't let the DD-214 stop you from filing. It's just going to take a little more work. Unfortunately, this does not always work for our National Guard, because again, National Guard is a state agency, and so you would need to find the National Guard, you would need to contact the National Guard for a copy of the DD-214. The
other part is actually find a certified VSO. What's your thoughts on that?
My thoughts on certified VSO is that that should really be the only place that you're filing. You should only be filing with a certified VSO. There are a lot of companies out there that are saying, hey, you don't have to use a certified VSO. We can help you file your claim. We always get our veterans, big money. So you're going to pay them a percentage once it's done, and you're usually paying about $150 per exam through their doctors, which seems like a deal, right? Because this is what you want. The problem is that person that you're giving your social security number, your address, your mama's maiden name, all your kids' birth certificates, a certified VSO gets their fingerprints done, and there's some accountability. You can actually go to the IG and say, this is the person who filed my claim, and now I can file a complaint against them. But we know that at the point that they were getting certified, and I think I tell you, I think I get fingerprinted every 2 years, although sometimes it feels like I'm getting fingerprinted every year to make sure I haven't done any felonies that would disqualify me from being a VSO. But a certified VSO also gets access to the VA records, so they shouldn't have to ask you questions about what does your letter say, because they are certified.
Correct.
And so what's important to me, everybody has free will, but what's important to me is, as the economy gets worse, illegal things begin to happen, right? Yeah. And if I give you my social security number, my birth certificate, you got my mama's maiden name, my daddy's name, you got everything you need to be me without me knowing it.
Correct.
And I have no repercussion because they didn't steal it. I handed it over.
Gave it to them freely.
Gave it to them freely.
Yeah.
And so the other part is, those people out there are like, no, they would never do that because I'm sitting right next to them. The only reason they asked me for my password to get into my va.gov is so they can check on my claim for me. But they can also change where your money is deposited, because you have given them full access. So once they have that, they can do whatever they want.
Well,
they can set up a direct deposit for them to get $10 a month for the rest of your life. You don't know.
You don't know. Case in point, that the reigning National League MVP, the Japanese baseball player, entrusted one guy to be sort of him while he's playing. And 2 days ago, he just got convicted for stealing $17.5 million of this guy's money that he had no idea was happening. So, I'm going to say what one of our listeners said: preach, sister. You preach. I mean, you really, really preach today to our listeners and let them know that you're a viable source of information. Even though you're a knucklehead, open up those ears and listen, because you have given us so much information today that you must come back again, because this is something that we need to continuously put out to our listeners, the differences between the medical side, the benefit side, the organization that can provide the support. And believe it or not, you got these young people now going to be in the system for 40 and 50 years. File that claim, put that $132 in a 403 or whatever you want to do it, and at age 55 or 60, you can kick back and live.
Yes.
For something that you have earned, not given to you.
Right.
Uncle Sam told Herman and I, okay, here's a blank check. When you retire, that blank check says you're going to get free medical if you're qualified, you know, a voucher to buy your home, go to school, do all of these things because you gave up this for the defense of our nation. So do not procrastinate and be that knucklehead not to follow through. So I just salute you for the information that you're providing to our listeners worldwide, not only to our listeners, to Herman's nonprofit, to my nonprofit, all of that kind of stuff. I just say thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's been my pleasure to be here. I highly respect both of you. I enjoy coming to speak, and I thank you for the invite. And if you ever want to talk to me again, or you want very specific information, just reach out and I will send that to you.
Well, that's
we will do that. And actually, as I stated last Friday, Veda and myself had a veteran resource event, and we had at least 8 vendors, and we are basically partners. We're going to do it once a quarter, so you'll be hearing about it on WCEG from me and from all of the communication. This is what I told my organization. This is 2.0. So the pandemic is over. We're dealing with the new reality, whatever that is, and that's where we headed.
Yeah. Well, Ms. Brooks, on behalf of our leader, Penny Rogers, and our studio director, Ms. Greer, Vivian Greer, we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, because I tell you what, those ladies worked hard to get us to this point. Herman and I have been doing this for a long time. We love it. We're not a paid employee. We do this because we love it. And we want to share information to the community. So I salute you. I salute Ms. Rogers. I salute Ms. Greer. I salute my frat brother Herman. And we just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. You guys have a wonderful day. I appreciate it. My email is there. If you need me, just, email me. I'll get back to you.
Your voice has power.
Your voice has power.
You're going to hear from me before the end of the day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for taking time. I know you're a busy lady, Ms. Brooks, but you honor us with your presence. And we just want to say thank you until the next time.
All right.